And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Wednesday, January 22nd. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining, between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So let's get into what we are going to talk about for today. So we're going to give you guys some coaching carousel updates, some things I wanted to touch upon. We did briefly touch upon it yesterday when talking about the Lions, and that is Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Lions, has now taken the Chicago Bears job, so we'll get into that. Also, a couple of other headlines I wanted to get into regarding coaches as well. In the second part of the show, we'll talk about the futures of Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp, because right now there's some uncertainty surrounding those two players. We'll get into that and how I think things will play out for those two guys. We'll also talk about the latest matchup between Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. We'll take an early look at the AFC Championship game as these two guys will once again match up in the postseason. And can the Bills get it done this time? We'll talk about it. We'll also get into talking about, in the fourth part of the show, about the Lions. We'll talk about, has the Super Bowl window closed for this team? We'll get into that. And then I will rank the top four teams, the top four remaining teams left in the playoffs. I'll do my power rankings at the end. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about the coaching carousel and what's been going on as of late. So we'll start off by talking about Ben Johnson. So the offensive coordinator for the Lions, he is leaving, but he will stay within the division. He is becoming the Bears head coach. And I do like this hire a lot. This was probably one of the biggest names out there when it came to the coaching carousel. And we had that incident not too long ago where someone got Caleb Williams' number and was texting him saying, "Hey, it's Ben Johnson. Getting ready to work, or ready to get to work." And Caleb Williams was hyped up. Then Caleb Williams got a FaceTime call, and it was not Ben Johnson. It was someone playing a trick on him. But not too much later, we had Ben Johnson officially taking the Bears job. And we saw the clip of him walking in and, getting a round of applause from the Bears and their staff members. And I like this hire. I do. I think the Bears, with how their team is set up, they needed an offensive-minded head coach. They needed that. And I feel like with Ben Johnson, to work with Caleb Williams, I think that is going to be a good pair-up. Now, does that mean it'll work? Who knows? We are not even done with this season yet. But they're going to get to work, and I think Caleb Williams will take a big jump in year 2. I do believe that. I think as the season went along, you saw that, he was starting to get into a rhythm. Now, even down the stretch, there were some games where, didn't play so good. We had the 49ers game. That was a train wreck. Even against, some of the divisional opponents as well, it wasn't great. But, they did beat the Packers. But you did see improvement as the year went along. And I think now it's all about staying consistent. And I think with Ben Johnson there, and I think they have the weapons that, they already have things in place on offense. What they need to figure out is the offensive line, getting better protection to surround Caleb Williams with. And if they can do that, I think they'll be in good shape. Defensively, they got good pieces on that side of the ball. Now, the defense did take a step back when Matt Eberflus was let go in the middle of the year. But I think if they bring in the right coordinator, they should be okay on that side of the ball. And I think the Bears will be an improved team. Now, Ben Johnson, this is the first time he's going to be a head coach. So, I was just thinking about now, we had the clock management issue at the end of the Thanksgiving game against the Lions. What would Ben Johnson do in that scenario? Would he handle it differently than Matt Eberflus? I would hope so. There's more than just managing the offense. It's now you got the whole team to focus on. So I think, you got to learn as you go. But I expect the Bears to be an improved team in 2025. Now that you got the right guy in place, I believe, to get the best out of Caleb Williams and that offense. And you do have DeAndre Swift, who was on the Lions. So he kind of knows, what Ben Johnson is going to do. So, we'll see how it goes. But I like the hire, and I think the Bears, like I said, are going to be an improved team in 2025. But also a couple of other coaching things that I wanted to get into, coaching headlines. So Kevin O'Connell got a contract extension with the Vikings. He was on his final year, and the Vikings extended him, which, that was expected. They're coming off of a 14-win season. And, the Vikings, they made the playoffs. When did he take over? He took over in, what did he take over, in 2022? 2021? Either way, 2 of the last 3 years, the Vikings have made the playoffs. And he's a good coach. And they got a lot out of Sam Darnold. You can make the argument that, he could have won Coach of the Year. Because how many people expected the Vikings to be 14-3 going into the playoffs? But that's what happened. And, he's done a great job. Now, the postseason, we got to see that the Vikings now take that next step because, they made the playoffs a couple years ago. They lost to the Giants, and then you lost in the first round to the Rams. So now it's about getting to the next round. But this was the right move. I have no problems with that, of course. That NFC North is going to be really tough, though. So we will see, how the Vikings do next year. Also, Josh McDaniels is making his return to the Patriots. He will be the offensive coordinator once again. Another move that I don't really have a problem with. I know on social media you're going to have you have people ripping this move and people praising it. I think Josh McDaniels is not a bad offensive coordinator. I don't think he is. And you saw the first year of Mac Jones. Mac Jones went to the Pro Bowl. Now, Mac Jones didn't have this ridiculous year, his rookie season, but still, he put up solid numbers, and that was with Josh McDaniels as the offensive coordinator. And then once he left to go coach the Raiders, then the offense, began to start taking a dip. And, they went from Joe Judge and Matt Patricia to Bill O'Brien, and Mac Jones, his numbers went down. So I think, with Josh McDaniels there, and you got guys on the team that know his system, and you got Drake May there, a young quarterback who showed promise last season. Now you could say last season, I guess, last year, even though we're still in the same year. It's whatever. Drake May, this is good for him. For the Patriots, you got the head coach, you got an offensive coordinator that, you could work with. I mean, now you just got to, it's all about surrounding Drake May with the proper talent. And there's receivers out there that they could go after, improve that offensive line. There's a lot that the Patriots have to do to get themselves back to where they want to be. But you have the quarterback, you got the coach, and I think the system will work, the offensive system that's going to get put in place. Now it's all about surrounding him with the right talent. And if they could do that, they're on their way. And the defense, for the most part, is always good, too. It's just now getting the right playmakers around Drake May. So there's that other headline. And then also Pete Carroll, possible, the Raiders could bring him in, maybe make him the next head coach for them. Somebody has to bring him in. Somebody has to bring him in. He is the best candidate out there. I don't know why more teams are not calling for him, because he should be number one on everyone's list. So could it be the Raiders? Because the Raiders supposedly reached out to Belichick to try to bring him and lure him back to the NFL. Pete Carroll's out there. Go after him. I don't think there's really any news on Mike McCarthy. Obviously, he was linked to the Bears job, but now the Bears brought in Ben Johnson, so maybe he takes the Saints job. I don't know. I think they were bringing in Mike Kafka, the offensive coordinator for the Giants. They were bringing him in for a second interview, I believe. So we'll see. And then the Jets, they're trying to, finish things up with Aaron Glenn and hope that, they keep him in the building. Well, they wanted to keep him in the building and make sure he signs a deal without leaving. So they really want Aaron Glenn. And there's some concerns with Aaron Glenn just because it's another first-time head coach, a defensive guy, and the Jets have kind of been through that already. And for the Jets, a team that has not been successful for a long time, you would think maybe they should try and bring in someone that already has head coaching experience. And that's why I would say Pete Carroll. But there's also just other things with the Jets too. Like, are they going to bring back Aaron Rodgers? Like, what are they going to do? I saw that it could be a head coach / GM decision, or it could be a Woody Johnson decision. So we got to see how that goes too. But it seems like they really want Aaron Glenn, so I wouldn't be surprised if a deal is done within the coming days. But we haven't heard anything just yet. So that's pretty much it when it comes to all the head coaching news. There's some things I probably missed, but that's what I wanted to cover, at least to open up the show here. But let me know what you guys think about what's going on here with the coaching carousel. What are your thoughts on some of the things we talked about? Let me know in the comments. So we are going to take our first break of the show now. When we come back, we will talk about the Rams. We'll talk about Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. What does the future hold for these two guys? I'll give you my thoughts when we come back from the break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.